Welcome to the Oracle Analytics Summit. Today we are honored to be able to have a number of customers and partners joining us who are going to share their success as they showed their resiliency in getting through this difficult last 12 to 18 months of challenging times. And they not only survived the pandemic, but they have come out the other side thriving. We're going to hear their stories of success. I think you're going to enjoy the time with us. We're going to conclude today by hearing from TK Anand in an interview that I'll have with him. You won't want to miss it. So let's get started and hear from the customers.
We kicked off Holistic Finance Data Strategy project last year in the middle of 2020. It was the time where it seemed that the world is going to fall apart because of this pandemic. And this shifted most of the company's attention from revenue tracking to managing their cost, managing their spend. And again, here data became very critical. Since we had so many disparate systems, we were not able to provide timely data to our business executives. So with this goal, we kicked off Holistic Finance Data Strategy project. The goal for this project was to address all these data related challenges and drive the operational excellence throughout the company. In 2018, when we initially implemented OAC, it was just used by FP&A team for their data needs. Come 2021, OAC dashboards are available to all the executive, to all the Dropbox senior leadership, where they can slice and dice the data as per their needs. When we were showing these dashboard to our executives, one of the executives had an aha moment where she told, "Oh Vikram, that's fantastic. Now I know, looking at these dashboards, I know which POs are expiring in 3 months, which POs are expiring in 6 months. So now I can proactively reach out to procurement team and ask them to have a better negotiations with the vendor." This has generated a lot of curiosity and interest to all our accounting users, where they are coming and asking us if we could solve their problem so that their team members, they can spend time in providing insights rather than capturing and manipulating data.
When pandemic hit in March of 2020, as many of you saw from the news, Northwell was had the largest COVID-19 patients that were hospitalized in US. So obviously HR played a significant role in supporting Northwell during this pretty extraordinary time. We were moving nurses from one hospital to another to help in the critical areas, and also brought in over 700 additional agency temporary nurses into Northwell. So we needed to have a one global view on the staffing. Our workforce analytics team has developed a prototype in Excel spreadsheet, and they were providing this information multiple times a day to our chief nursing officer. What the new dashboard was able to provide, especially for someone who was making decisions for the entire health system, is to have an outlook on how things looking not only at each hospital, but compare staffing needs and compare staffing ratios between the hospitals. Because of the analytics, we could do many things differently. Number one, we stopped creating huge spreadsheets and turning them into PDF documents and then sending them via email. And then we finally, one day, got a phone call from our chief nursing officer that said we no longer need to meet daily. The clinical situation was more stabilized, and the tools that we put in place were enough, just to look at the data instead of having daily critical meetings. So obviously the need for reporting, the need for insight continue to grow every day. And this really important data, we're now going to be able to collect in our HCM and bring this data into analytics and hopefully play a major role to help Northwell leaders to understand where we are right now and help them to plan for the future.
MTN is really passionate about its business and enabling the whole continent to reap the benefits of being connected. Oracle Cloud ERP does have a number of reporting platforms linked to it, OTBI, BI Publisher, but we really found that the missing link all along has been Oracle Analytics Cloud. So we've started in the beginning of last year, really, with a number of group-wide initiatives to adopt Oracle Analytics in conjunction with the EPM suite, which is the Enterprise Performance Management Suite. What we have picked up already with the solutions we have deployed is that it really changes the mindset from gathering data and cleaning it up, rather to looking at the data, analyzing it, and making informed decisions. The combination of tighter integration between the systems and then far more insight into the numbers and what's coming through in the data feeds has really caused significant savings in that we reduce manual input, we reduce manual effort, but we also able to move to a far more frequent process in harvesting and reporting on the data. When it all kicked off, there was a big scramble to conserve cash and to make sure we can hold the supply chain and understand our operations. And there was a big rush to get daily dashboards and see what's the impact and all of those things. But what has been surprising is almost like you say, that there's almost a sense of calmness around us in that if we're resilient enough to survive this, we can probably tackle any bigger challenges. It really allows us to focus a lot more of our effort on bettering customer experience, be that to internal or external customers, but all of a sudden there's renewed energy and capacity to focus on the things that matter.
Today we have an impressive partner panel for you, and I want to welcome our guests today. We have Brad Jensen from Accenture. We have Todd Randolph from KPMG, Rich Solari from Deloitte, and Hema Kadali and Peter Tran from PwC. Welcome, everybody. I know you guys have all been adjusting and adapting within your own organizations, as well as helping the customers that you serve to not only have their businesses survive the pandemic, but thrive coming out the other end. I wonder, Peter, could you share a particular story or example of a company that you've known that has done a particularly good job coming out the other side of this pandemic?
Yeah, absolutely. So this past year has definitely been challenging for a lot of companies, and one of our clients actually had to pivot and adapt very quickly, just like many businesses. So in this story, our client, who's a telco client, actually was an OBIE customer and upgraded to Oracle Analytics Server. And by doing so, was able to leverage a lot of the self-service and the citizen-led capabilities that Oracle Analytics offers to help them navigate and adapt very quickly to all the changes that were happening in the pandemic. So a first example was they really needed to build out new solutions and applications very quickly. They had a lot of data already in their enterprise systems, in their data warehouse, but they wanted to upload and augment that with third-party or external data. In this case, they wanted to upload some of the Wi-Fi data that was coming from their offices so that as their employees returned to work, they would actually connect to the Wi-Fi system, get that data, and they wanted to be able to build an application to help them prepare for returning to work and the contact tracing that was involved. At first, they were looking at other applications, other custom build, but by leveraging kind of the self-service data preparation and the self-service capabilities that Oracle Analytics Server offered in this new capability, they were able to do so and build a prototype very quickly with all kind of low-code, no-code capabilities. So that's one example of how this customer was able to leverage Oracle Analytics.
That's great. Brad, I wonder if you could share a story of a company that maybe you worked with who you found particularly compelling in terms of their ability to respond.
Yeah, absolutely, Joey. We were working with one of the states. They had recently migrated their existing Oracle footprint to OCI or Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, and the pandemic hit. And so two things happened. One, the services they were providing the consumers or citizens changed. The other thing that happened is their business went from looking at Dynamics on a daily basis to really minutes and weekly to understand what was happening with the outbreak, to understand contact tracing. New data sources came out. And so they had the need to really understand how the services were changing with their citizens. And two, they needed to look at data much faster than their existing on-premise solution. So they quickly ramped up Oracle Analytics Cloud and Autonomous Data Warehouse. Those data sets included some Oracle data sets, as well as Salesforce.com and AWS. And that data was brought in real time to really give the state, those executives, access to information around how COVID was evolving, minute by minute kind of evolution, and how those services were impacting the citizens.
Absolutely. A really compelling story of the agility that you get from working within the cloud, as well as it's interesting when these urgent times require even closer analysis, as you mentioned, down to the minute, down to the second. So great story about the agility that can come from analytics in the cloud. I wonder, Todd, if you could share a story about a particular company who you thought responded well to the pandemic.
One recent client, we focused in on gender and ethnic promotion and hiring, and also gender and ethnic turnover. So we've created these dashboards for the promotion and hiring around diversity by department, position, number of promotions and positions accepted by diverse candidates, gender diversity by age and tenure, number of promotions and positions accepted by females by location. The turnover side is similar. Again, terminations by gender and by department, diversity by age, location, and tenure terminations. So we're really just getting started with this offering, but we see it as a tool to assist leaders in instituting a really positive change in creating that overall inclusive work environment. And the idea is to start with the data and understand where the organization is today, set that baseline, and then measure your progress with this work.
It makes a lot of sense. The diversity inclusion that you mentioned, it requires all hands on deck and being able to take advantage of everyone who can contribute during these challenging times. Rich, could you share a story about a particular company that you thought responded well to the challenges they faced?
Sure. So, it's interesting because I think when we talk about COVID, it was clearly a disruptor from the traditional type of work that we do, right? When you start thinking about that work, a lot of times it's, using Oracle Analytics tied to an ERP implementation for back office reporting. And it was really an opportunity for us to take the analytics out of the back office and use it for a lot of different things. And so an example of that would be one large healthcare client that we had been doing a lot of back office ERP, HCM type work over the last number of years. We've been implementing OAC, some of our solutions here that we have at the firm. But when COVID hit and the situation became dire with their manpower planning within hospitals and where they needed nurses and doctors and all of that, it was a great opportunity for us to be able to kind of change direction in the work that we were doing and very quickly sort of bring in OAC to be able to deliver on very specific types of manpower planning models, looking at very specific types of attrition models, how they were going to be able to move their workforce from one hospital to the other based on where the COVID rates were increasing, etc.
That's fantastic. Todd, I'd like to come to you next. As with the research that you guys have done, you rightly point out that one of the keys to success with analytics is the human element. It's people using data and analytics to collaborate and cultivate insights. What have you seen in the way that people are using analytics, and how has that helped your organization to thrive?
Yeah, so Joey, obviously the last several years we've seen some really powerful cloud-based technologies like for ERP, supply chain, and HCM come to the forefront. And they've incorporated, or at least we see, analytics into the equation now. And so we've done a lot of research on this, and one area in particular is around the HR, or the Office of the HR, or Human Capital Management. And in my experience, historically, that's been like last on the list when it comes to technology investment. And even as early as about 18 months ago, we did a survey of 1,200 global HR executives, and still HR appeared to be the most resistant of any business function in embracing digital transformation. if you think about that, their job touches every person within the organization. So we started looking at reasons why. Number one, there's a high demand and low availability of skills necessary to perform this work within HR groups. Number two, most HR professionals have said they're not confident in conducting or even interpreting, say, advanced analytics to help support the business. And number three, and this one caught me a little by surprise, but there's often a lack of executive trust in the numbers that are produced from that HR group. Despite these challenges, we started incorporating an analytics work stream in every transformation program we assist our clients with. Good news, over the last year or so, 18 months, we're seeing a really significant uptick in this investment in the area. And over the last year, lead organizations, we're also seeing a significant increase in the interest of incorporating advanced analytic models. And we've been talking about this opportunity for years. We're really starting to see some movement in this area. And there's a few key areas that we've noticed a big uptick in. One is, obviously, we mentioned earlier, the whole spotting and lessening of attrition. So, why are top performers leaving our organization, and how can we stop them from leaving? What do we need to change to make the environment better? We've also looked at even being a little bit more forward thinking and look at, hey, how do we nurture those top performers? Let's not even get them to that potentially leaving list. How do we make their experience with the organization better? And then kind of tied to that is, in today's day and age with everyone working pretty much around the clock, how do you spot and rectify burnout? So what can we do to help our employees, take advantage of their time off and take their time off?
I bet those are very popular insights that you're delivering that encourage people to take more time off and to avoid burnout. So thank you for your work you're doing there. Rich, I wonder if you can also talk about the success that you're having. How would you characterize momentum for you and Deloitte?
Sure, and to start with, I don't think it's too much different than what Todd says. If you go back and look year over year, fiscal year 20 versus fiscal year 19, etc. If you look year over year, fiscal year 21, we've had almost a 300% growth in the use of Oracle Analytics on our projects. And I get asked all the time, why is that? A couple of things. Number one, I just think technology-wise, I like to talk about, the 50-yard dash versus the marathon, right? And maybe Oracle was a little late in the 50-yard dash with the technology and everything, but now we're running a marathon and Oracle is right there and has clearly closed the gap with their technologies around analytics. That's number one. Number two, I think clients are no longer looking for just point solutions. I talked a little bit about coming out of the back office, and really Oracle has done extremely well in being able to build that complete analytics ecosystem. So no longer is it the days of OBIEE and OBIA where we were just talking about reporting and dashboarding. We're now talking about truly enterprise analytics solutions, the analytics ecosystem. Organizations are starting to see the value of analytics. It's not a nice to have, it's now a need to have, as well as it's no longer a point solution. I need this technology and this technology. I can get the complete ecosystem from Oracle in the Oracle Cloud. That's paying off dividends to us.
Well, that's fantastic to hear. Hemant, I know that you have also been experiencing some success within PwC for Oracle Analytics. Can you characterize a bit of that for us? How does it feel in terms of momentum for you?
It's exactly what Todd and Rich were talking about. I mean, we have seen a tremendous growth in the last, I would say, year and a half. I think especially with FAW launch, our clients are really loving it, right? I think it's the end-to-end solutions they're looking for it. One other thing I would just add to what Rich said is the speed. I think they really are looking to deploy these solutions at a scale and the speed. And quite honestly, I think the Oracle Analytics and FAW is providing that.
Brad, could I get you to characterize the momentum you're experiencing for Oracle Analytics within Accenture?
Yeah, sure, Joey. I mean, to add to your recent press releases with the English Premier League and Red Bull Racing, Accenture would characterize growth and momentum in three areas. One is we've seen a significant uptick in clients wanting to maximize the value they get out of their Oracle investment. Number two, the liquidity analytics. We've saved our clients, tens of millions of dollars with that approach. Number three, if you look back from February of this year through September or October of this year, Accenture will take approximately 30,000 users live on Oracle Analytics Cloud. We think that's a really compelling number around how Oracle Analytics Cloud and the analytics capability with Oracle is really great, gaining traction and a great metric around momentum for Oracle.
Well, that's fantastic. I want to thank each of you for sharing your insights with us today, and I couldn't be happier for your success. And thank you for the great work you've been delivering to customers, which have not only helped their business, your business, but all of us to benefit from their contribution. I hope that everyone who's watching got a lot out of this as well. You heard from, these are industry leaders. You have Accenture, Deloitte, KPMG, and PwC, all leaders in the area of analytics, and you heard from the leaders within those leaders. So I got a lot from it. I hope you did too. Thanks so much for joining the panel today. Wonderful insights shared by our partners. It's now my pleasure to welcome TK Anand here. TK, thanks for coming. It's heartening to hear from our customers and partners and the great stories they had to share. What are you seeing in terms of how the Oracle Analytics community is doing?
Hey Joey, first of all, it's great to be here. I really enjoyed watching those customer and partner stories. But I'm not really surprised. Over the past 18 months, we've seen the pandemic cause some dramatic shifts in how organizations think and operate. And they're leveraging Oracle Analytics and the Oracle Cloud as a whole in ways we haven't seen before. For example, as you know, many people are working from home, and organizations have had to enable their employees to collaborate effectively. And collaboration doesn't come from just scheduling Zoom calls and getting people together, but it's also about getting everyone aligned on the data and the metrics that are important to the organization's success and tracking them regularly. The pandemic has also caused a lot of organizations to balance their long-running strategic projects with more short-term cost tracking and containment measures. And self-service analytics tools have really been a boon to finance teams in this regard. We've seen a number of customers increase their usage of Oracle Analytics to analyze their spend, collaborate across multiple lines of business, and make quick business decisions during this changing environment. And like we heard from Johan from MTN earlier, this is great because it's helping instill that data-driven mindset that we always talk about. And I think this is a great habit that we think customers will just continue to grow.
Absolutely. Working smart is certainly valuable in tough times, but the benefits are sure to transfer as times get better as well going forward. So speed is also important. I wonder if you could share some of the patterns Oracle has learned through helping our customers to be agile in the face of the pandemic.
Absolutely. Working through the pandemic has taught us so many things. A number of different patterns have emerged. The most obvious one is working from home. Who would have thought it, right? So many organizations have figured out that they can now be very productive even with a significant number of their employees working from home. Another pattern that existed prior to the pandemic but has really accelerated is the transition from on-premises systems to the cloud, right? But let's talk about the world of data and applications that's closer to us, right? One of the things that's happened during the pandemic is organizations have had to react very quickly. They've had to quickly build and deploy applications that can track the health and the whereabouts of their employees. Hospitals have had to deploy their resources quickly based on a rapidly changing public health situation. And all of this has required rapid application development that has only been possible thanks to low-code application tools like Oracle Apex. In fact, even within Oracle, we've built a number of applications using Apex in record time, and these are being used by governments across the globe to deal with the pandemic. Organizations also, during the early days of the pandemic especially, have had to understand the implications on their own business, on their sales forecasts, on their supply chain, their inventory, and so forth, and they've had to react. And augmented analytics tools like OAC have come to the rescue. They've really helped the business analysts and the citizen data scientists to analyze and explore the relevant data, come up with predictive models, and inform the business leaders in terms of the agile decision making they've had to do to deal with the situation.
Well, speaking of agile decision making, what's the role of packaged analytics and analytic applications in enabling businesses to be more agile?
Yeah, packaged analytics is another trend that had started to grow even before the pandemic, but we've seen it accelerate through the pandemic. A few years back, when I was somewhat early to Oracle, one of the things I was hearing repetitively from our applications customers was that getting value out of the data in these SaaS applications was very difficult. Building enterprise data warehouses and data lakes and analytics systems on top of them was hard and time consuming, and many of these projects were failing. And so with that in mind, we launched a multi-year strategy to build what we now call the Fusion Analytics Warehouse. It's a turnkey analytics solution for our Fusion SaaS application customers. We launched ERP analytics in late 2019, and then followed that with HCM analytics in around the mid-2020 timeframe. And both of these have been growing very quickly, even through the pandemic, as customers are choosing to go with this packaged solution as opposed to building something in-house. And we're still in the early stages of this transformation. We're just getting started with this.
Well, the benefit of turnkey analytics working natively within the application workflow makes a ton of sense. Can you also talk about the role that partners play in helping customers to succeed?
Yeah, partners play a major role in the Fusion Analytics Warehouse solution. So this is a SaaS analytics solution in the sense that customers can deploy it very quickly and start to get value out of their data. But virtually every customer that I've talked to, they want to customize the solution. They want to bring external data into the system. They want to build specific KPIs and metrics to model their own business scenarios. And they want to build custom reports and dashboards for their users. And that's where partners come in. Partners can use their analytics expertise to tailor the Fusion Analytics Warehouse solution to the customer needs. And moreover, many of our partners have built years of expertise in various industry verticals such as retail and finance and insurance and so forth. And so what we're seeing is partners are sort of offering vertical solutions on top of Fusion Analytics Warehouse so that our customers can have a complete solution that they can deploy. And I think this is really a win-win for everyone. Customers get an analytics solution that can be deployed in a fraction of the time than they were used to. And partners can focus their time and effort on the unique value and IP that they bring to the table. And the product takes care of all of the heavy lifting in terms of data movement and management of the data warehouse and so forth. And so I think that's really a great situation.
Well, TK, I want to thank you for taking the time to be with us today. We all saw your Oracle Live in May, where you discussed the new innovations in Oracle Analytics Cloud. I wonder if you can share a little bit more information on what's coming in the second half of 2021. Any news you might be able to preview with us?
Hey Joey, we've got so many innovative products and features in the pipe. Without giving away too much, I'll say this. The Oracle Live event that we did in May, that was great. I really enjoyed doing it. That was focused on our platform offering, which is the Oracle Analytics Cloud, which is really an innovation machine, right? We're constantly rolling out new features and capabilities every quarter. However, this fall, our focus is going to shift more towards our application products. We'll show the customer momentum we're seeing with the Fusion Analytics Warehouse across ERP and HCM, and we'll also be unveiling our next wave of new products and capabilities in this area as well. So stay tuned.
Well, thanks again, TK, for sharing your perspective and insights with us. It's always wonderful to hear from you directly. Thank you so much for joining us today. Remember, the Oracle Analytics Summit is a series to stay up to date with future episodes and new content. See you in November. Thanks for watching.